install video on the Lamphus Thunderwave siren and PA system. How to install and test. Here's what comes with the Lamphus Thunderwave siren slash horn setup. It's 100 watts. Here's the remote controller. You can mount it. Takes up a little less space than the box, so you can mount the box somewhere else and have your control functions here. Got the controller to head unit cable. You've got a 1/8 inch 3.5 millimeter jack that'll connect the unit to a radio. And here's the control box. Fairly compact. Basically, you select this solution so that you don't have to have the whole box. I've already got a CB mounted up where I want to, so I chose this model because you can mount this a little bit easier, take up less space, and then just run the control cable to it. You've got stickers to label what the auxiliary buttons do, pigtail wiring harness, and then some mounting brackets. Here is the mic. It's pretty big, bigger than my CB mic, but it does have the mount on the back, fortunately, so I can just swap that out with my CB mic if I want to use the PA system. I don't intend to use the siren part of it because I don't need to. I'm not an emergency vehicle. It's just my F350 here, but I'll probably use the horn function and then the PA as well. So there's the siren. Pretty good sized, a little bigger than I expected. Not not real thin. Looks like about 4 inches deep maybe, and probably around 7 inches tall, I'm thinking. But plan is to mount it behind the grill if I can find a spot. Wiring harness that you're going to put through the firewall to get to the siren and power, if you're powering from under the hood back into the truck. If you're going to mount the siren behind the grill here, here's how you remove the grill. You take looks like a 10 millimeter socket, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts across the top. Just remove each one of those. Okay, so once you've got these 4 bolts off the top taken out, you can kind of see where those are. There's 5 clips at the bottom of the grill. You tilt the grill forward, and then I've already got it popped loose here, but you can see what it looks like down there. See if I can get it to focus. See that clip right there? It'll be in there. Just push down on it and that'll pop loose. What I do is I pop the 2 outside ones loose first. That's always worked for me because I've been in here several times. So push it down right there on top of that and it'll pop loose. And then you work your way. There's 3 more. 1 in the center and then these 2 on the outside. There's another one. And sorry, it's blurry. It's kind of hard to get a good shot here. Focus, there we go, and another one. Anyway, there's 3 in there. You just push down on the tops. I highly recommend that you go get a screwdriver. This size, it's probably 2.5 feet long, because it'll help you also with your adjustment of your headlights. So you can use this tool to adjust your headlights as well. Anyway, that's how you get the grill off, and then you just slide it toward you, pull it back toward you. All right, so this is probably the hardest part, is mounting the siren or the horn that you're putting on these trucks, because these trucks are packed. There's so much, especially the diesels, there's so much stuff under the hood, and really no room to put anything. My previous video I did was the EMP shield, and I found a little spot where I got to stuff it right there. But I struggled getting the air horns in there behind the license plate, and then these lights, I had to make special brackets for those. There's really not much space at all. But anyway, so I'm going to explore a little bit here. Alright, so that's the best I can come up with, unless I wanted to mount it down here in place of one of those lights, but I want it to be more discreet and be behind the grill, and that's the best place I can come up with where the original horns were mounted. And the only problem is there's a bolt back here on the back of this Siren, the speaker, that would push into the cooling radiator here. So I'm just temporarily going to put this cap over it so that it sits out away from there, and then test fit the grill. And I did mark the grill here where it would have to be modified. Structurally, there's nothing behind here. If I cut this part out, there's nothing back there that's holding anything, so it shouldn't make any difference if I cut that out, and that's the best I can come up with. Now I'll continue with both hands. Okay, so you can see I've got this piece cut out here, and if you look in there, there's nothing structural that I've touched, just the back side of this, which, you know, the grill, front part of the grill only clips in here, but there's absolutely nothing that's going to affect at all. Okay, so you're gonna have to tilt this bracket up. You're gonna have to bend it up just a little bit in order to, so that when you bolt this thing down, it brings the back away from that radiator. You don't want to poke a hole in your radiator, so that bolt head down there will touch if you leave it the way that it was. Now, I've bent it to where it's flush now, but you're gonna have to go up even farther so that this comes out away from that radiator, and then leave some kind of protective thing back there like I've got, just in case it makes contact. I'll probably silicone that cap on there just so it's flush and flat and doesn't dig into the radiator. But this thing's gonna be tilted a bit like that to leave some space, and you want to, you know, check on it once in a while, make sure it's not leaning back. So another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take out just a little bit more around this, because when I pushed on that speaker, it looked like it was kind of pushing up on this part right here. So I'm going to go back in there a little bit further, since now I know there's no structural change going to happen with that. Well, sometimes things don't go exactly the way you plan them. They busted through on this side, so I just took the whole damn thing off here. But like I said, it's just a cup. Like, that's what it was beforehand. And you can see that the structure's still there and it didn't touch anything. So more clearance is better. So I bent this bracket up just a little bit more. You can see it's angled up a bit. And I siliconed basically just a lid off of a bottle on the back side of that bolt. Put some silicone in there, filled up the cap with silicone, and then cleaned the surface here with alcohol, and then Gorilla taped it. So it's soft, it's flat, it's got a wider dispersal of area. So if it does come into contact, it's not going to be as critical, but as you can see, I've got it tilted out far enough away to where it's not going to contact unless, you know, the bolts come loose. And what I did with the bolts, they don't come with mounting bolts for this, but I got a Nylock washer and a bolt. I'm using blue Loctite and a washer, so hopefully the bolts won't come loose if I do all of that. All right, so we got that one tightened down, but as you can see here, the holes do not line up with the forward horn mount. So we're going to drill a hole through there so that we can secure it, and then we'll put everything back together. So I have no desire to put a hole in this radiator here, so I went ahead and actually added some foam and a piece of rubber on the back of that as well. Even though this thing's offset from that coolant or the radiator, I just don't want it pushing back on there, so I added some foam in there as well and glued it on to the back of that cap. So I just want to go over one more time how much of this modification has to be done for cutting out here. Get a nice close-up for you to take a look, so you can get a good grasp on the room you need to make for that horn or siren, whatever. And now you remember that big screwdriver that I showed you earlier? It's going to be your best friend on this truck a lot, because it goes down through the firewall plug and pokes out. You tape your wires to it and then you pull your wires back out. I'll show you on the inside. So here's the harness that came with the unit, and we've got the screwdriver coming through the plug in the firewall there. There's the tip, and you just tape, use Gorilla Tape, all these wires right at the end, and you pull it right through. And I've fed a lot of wire through that plug up there between the CB and the air horn and everything else that I've got on this thing. Hopefully all those wires stay on the end of that screwdriver. Let's see if it works. Here they come. You can use a fish tape too, whatever you want to use, but this thing is awesome. Works every time. Here they go. I've already got my CB here. I've got the mic removed just to get it out of the way, but originally I had my CB mic was mounted over here on that clip, but this one actually fits good on the Uniden mount, so I could rest this. I don't use my CB that often. And as far as the panel goes, this thing is not as small as I thought it was going to be, and I don't want to block all of my space here. And you can't really, I mean, you can put it there, but it just doesn't really match everything. It doesn't fit down here. I mean, if you have a different model truck, this is a 2015 F350. You might have more space than I do. I also thought about mounting the panel down here somewhere. But really, I want it to be discreet. I don't want to leave the truck parked somewhere and have somebody be able to see this. So I'm thinking that the control box here, I'm just going to mount it down here below the CB, kind of out of the way. And I tested it, and my foot and my leg doesn't touch it. So I'm going to mount it down here below the CB. That's a good spot. And then the control panel, as of right now, I think I'm just going to have it sit right here in this slot like that, and then maybe also the mic, but we'll figure that out. I just don't want this thing out all the time. I'm probably not going to use it that often anyway. If you're driving a tow truck or something, maybe you'd have it mounted up there, or if you're doing security, whatever. But I don't have a reason to use a siren, just that horn and maybe the PA once in a while. So for me, it's just going to be an occasional use. So on the back here, you see where the connections are for the wiring harness. You got some fuses here. That's the horn interconnect, and then that's the I think it's an RJ45 cable that goes to the control panel here. And then the control panel also has a 3.5 or 1/8 inch jack that can go to tie in with your CB radio, so you can play over your speaker out there, like that. So once you get that done, I'm going to go ahead and mount it down here. We're going to have to do it like that, which is fine because that's where the CB is anyway. It's not going to hurt anything. And then the wiring will be at the bottom, feeding out behind this plastic piece here. Okay, now don't freak out. I know this looks like a mess. It's going to get cleaned up when I'm done, but for right now, I've got the extra switches in here to several different items. Like there's the LED running lights. That's got my air horn pump on it. That's got the dash cam. Those are the KC lights that are in the bumper that are tied into my high beams. And so rather than running an extra lead to the battery and getting this even more cluttered than it is, I tied it in with the KC LED lights that are running off of those switches, those aux switches on the inside. So I've tied it in with that. I've got a fuse holder here, and then both the hot wires I've tied in the red, so red and white, and then a red. They're both tied into this, and they're both going to be fused as they directed on a 15 amp fuse here. So it's basically double fused because you've got it tied into the switch on the inside, which is fused on its own, and then you've also got an extra fuse here. So that'll help isolate these two circuits at least if something goes haywire. And then the ground lead is tied in up here to the chassis, and you can also see my EMP shield, which I also made a video on. I'll throw a link in the description on that too, but it's also got its a ground lead there as well. So I'm going to leave the fuse out just for safety. I'll continue wiring up. You've got 4 green wires here. 2 of them are striped, 2 of them are solid. And the reason for that is that this system supports 2 sirens or horns. And so we're going to run these over here. Hopefully that's, yeah, I can pull it out some more and run it up, tie it into this. And we'll probably just wind these up and put them aside for now. So I have not wrapped these in a wire loom protective sleeve yet because I wanted to test fit everything, and I want to get it all wired up before I make it all look all nice, because there's no point in zip tying everything, turning it all on, and then finding out it doesn't work. So you want to leave some of this stuff loose for now in case you have to take it all out and redo something. But that's what it looks like mounted. Okay, I just want to show you how we wired it up. So the number 1 siren, we've only got one in this case, so we used the solid green wires, connected it to the solid green wires on that, and then just kind of fed it through here. I'm going to do some wire looms later, but I'm not going to bore you with cleaning it all up in this video. So you've got your 2 solid green siren wires there. You've got your hot wire here, your fuse. I got this on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description there for you. I bought like 15 of them. They're cheap. Turns out that one of these, this one red and white wire, is optional, and all it does is feeds the yellow and blue wires. And these are your aux 1 and 2, which could be used to power, say, some strobes or something. So you don't have to wire up the red and white wire to hot if you don't want to. It's strictly for these aux setups. But I went ahead and tied it in just in case I want to throw in some strobes later. And then the other extra wire are these green and white striped. They're exactly the same. Both have stripes on them for later. And I'm just going to tie those all up, stuff them down in there out of the way. And all we have to do is plug in everything. All right, so earlier I got it all wired up and tested it, and I didn't hear anything coming on. So I checked a few things, and I've had this happen before where you use the connectors and you didn't quite get the wire crimped inside, you know, the right area. You pushed it in too far or something like that. Anyway, I missed it, So I took the crimps off, wired it, just bare, tested it, and it tested good. So it is working now, and I'll take it up in the hills and let you hear what it sounds like from a distance, because I don't think it's a good representation for guys to do these videos and then do it inside their garage or a shop, because that obviously accentuates the sound, and I want you to have a good example of what this thing sounds like out in the real world. So we'll test it later, but for now, here's the flex tubing. I've got it all zip tied up away from the radiator, and we'll clean up that mess later. So I'm just going to do a real quick test on the horn for you so you can just kind of see it light up. Here's the controller. You just push the button, and then it's got a backlight control switch right here. The horn and the siren volumes are controllable right there. Take a little screwdriver in there and turn it up if you want. And then the radio rebroadcast volume is right there. Okay. And so the test. PA's working good. You've got a volume on top, and then just a push to talk here. Here's all your siren buttons, your radio rebroadcast, your alternate 1, 2, which could be strobes, and then the horn. I'll just beep it once for you. That's it. And the control unit's mounted down there. I've got all the flex tubing nicely buttoned up and covering all the wires. And then I'm thinking, just for now, I'm going to keep this thing stashed down in the side console, kind of out of the way, and nobody can see it that way. Tighten it all down. That's about it. So I'll show you the test after we get out in the hills. Testing. Test. Thanks for watching the test. Lamphus Thunderwave.